Hello everyone, welcome to Noonie TV. So this is Noonie Live speaking. So in the past video we did talk about the Arcanist nerf, which is probably the worst nerf of the whole patch. It wasn't a complete waste as it's not the biggest nerf ever. There wasn't in this patch nothing too big in particular, just a couple upgrades. We all know the winner of the patches were definitely not the Arcanist. They received the worst, even though it's minimum at best. Now we will look at the Nightblade. So the Nightblade is actually one of the winners of patch where they definitely got buffed. Many people were questioning these skills whether they were either buff or nerf. For some people think it's a nerf, some people think it's a buff. Well, let's take a look at it and analyze it together and explain. So the first thing in the Nightblade assassination is the incapping we call it incap, but it's called incapacitated strike. Let's take a look at it. Alright, so what it does, it is by far one of the cheapest OTs. So it does say here, cost 120. However, you only need 70 to do its proc and damage. It ravaged an enemy with its spinning strike, dealing 13710 disease, causing them to take 20% more damage from you. Attack for 8 seconds and stun them for 3 seconds. While slaughter, you gain restore 100 magicka and stamina when you deal with a light or heavy attack. So it's good on the bar and OT to give you back some reeve, especially when you're doing content. It says 120 ultimate, however, it is extremely cheap, and at 70 is where you can actually use your incap. The 120 ultimate is for if you want to have the stun. The stun, especially in PvP, works really well. PvE, I guess you can stun an ad, but it's not really a big deal. So let's see what they're gonna do to it. So as you can see, they're gonna increase the damage done by an enhanced version of this ultimate by 10% more, and extend the duration of its effect to 12 seconds. So here it says 8 seconds right now, and they're gonna increase it from 8 to 12 seconds right now. So that is pretty cool. However, the ultimate would no longer grant reef for slotting. That means you're not going to get resources back for having the incap, which is okay because you can get it from someplace else. And I will explain about that later on, because they did do something to leeching and siphoning attacks where you'll probably get your resources back later on. Key. Let's take a look at it right now. What does it do in the Xbox server? So conceal weapon slash an enemy dealing 8,569 magic damage. If you strike an enemy from their flank, you set them off balance. When you leave sneak invisibility or cast conceal weapon while under the effects of major expedition while in combat, gain major berserk for 10 seconds, increases your damage done by 10%. While slaughter, you gain minor expedition, increasing your movement by 15%. Alright, so let's take a look here. The change that they're gonna do is they're gonna do the morpho conceal weapon. It's gonna now deal an additional 10% increased damage at all times, and an additional 10% for 15 seconds after leaving stealth or visibility. They're gonna do that. In exchange, they're gonna take out the granting major berserk. The morph minor expedition and conditional requirement now persists through bar swap. So that's perfect. The minor expedition, you're going to have it through bar swap. That's a win-win. For some people, they say, hey, not having that major berserk is going to suck. Not really, because here's the thing. When you really look at it and do the calculations, having that extra 10% at all times, or even for 15 seconds plus the 10%, it's a win-win. That major berserk, you can literally get it from so many other things. You can get it from a healer, you can get it from other skills, you can get it from other passives, you could probably even get it from potions. The potion might be some minor, but still, the thing is you can stack them. So having a 10% plus, if you get the major berserk from someplace else, you can stack. And if you stack, that is even a win-win. And there are sets that do major berserk as well, or minor. I could be wrong, but either way, you can find a way to stack them. It's not a biggie. You can find the damage somewhere else in your arsenal. You just gotta play with it a little bit. Now let's look at the next thing they did, the next buff or thing they did for the Nightblade. So we have, let's look right here, the siphoning. So the siphoning in cripple debilitate. This morph now increases the chance of applying the overcharge status effect to 15% rather than guaranteeing its application each tick. Now that overcharge does considerably more damage. That may sound like a nerf, but that really isn't, because when you look at it, all the status effects, most of them have been buffed. And I mean buffed. So even the poison that some people think may have been nerfed, they buffed it for the executioner stage, which is more important than the beginning. Look at it this way. Even like in poison, if you're fighting an ad, who cares if you poison them at the beginning? I like it more when you're going to finish them towards the end. I mean, that's much more better damage than the beginning. So with the overcharge status effect, you're going to have other status effects with it in other skills, so it's not bad at all. And this is probably more of a safe bet, where someone who may not be fluent on a parse or may make mistakes or spam, this will be rather considered safe, where they're going to not lose much out of it. Siphoning Strikes. So this is the one that people have a lot of trouble with. It's reworked this ability and it's morphed to a simpler use while making their resource recovery more engaging. Okay, so let's take a look at that. I'm gonna put the one I have right now. I have the Siphon Attack Mag version. So it imbues your weapons with soul stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1568 health and restore 106 magicka for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attack restores twice the value. You restore up to 4,270 additional magicka when the effect ends based on the length of time Siphon Attack was active. So that is the skill I use now. That is my bread and butter. Once you get mastered on Nightblade, you can literally survive off your rotation. That's why it's so masterful to learn the rotation, get fluent. And the reason being is because I basically have no heal. I can put on siphoning, use all my damage skills, and swallow sword that gives me what, like 37% heal, which is very weak, followed by my siphoning passives, and I never really have to use any type of heal. I can survive off of those two skills. However, for most people who are not fluent with a Nightblade rotation, which is a tremendous ninja stuff survival class in all aspects, from endgame to solo to overland to arenas, I think this change to the Siphoning Strike will make it much easier, less confusing, and less spammable, where I think this would help everyone, especially someone who's learning the Nightblade or maybe very squishy in a Nightblade. If you find yourself ever being squishy in a Nightblade, then you're doing something wrong in your rotation, because they are one of the best survival class in the game. So they reworked this ability that makes it simpler to use, while making the resource recovery more engaging. When activated, the ability would instantly drain 4,000 health, but in exchange, you're going to restore 2,000 magicka and stamina. So once again, look at the siphoning right now, what it does. You just buff it, you know, and the cost is very cheap at the moment, 1,058, and you get some health, some minor resources back. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds up when you're fighting and you're running out of resources, right? But it is confusing skill for a lot of people. Some people don't even think it's worth it. However, now it's the easy one. Now you're running out of resources, you spam too much, you're lacking resources, or maybe you don't have a healer or maybe the healer died, or maybe you don't even have a healer in your group. Okay, we'll sacrifice a little health and you get some resources back and you're good to go. Hey, it might sound like a lot, 4,000 health, but when you look at it, if you're running out of resources, you can't fight, you can't move, you can't do anything. So you sacrifice a little health, you'll be able to move, you'll be able to do damage, and you'll be able to use your whatever heal or vice versa you have to get some health back. So it's a win-win in all abilities. The next thing, let's look at here. So they also mentioned when the ability is slotted on either bar, any damage you deal will heal you for 1,250 health up to once every second. So look at that. You're exchanging 4,000 health, but in the long run, every second you're gaining 1,250 health. So this is pretty good. Pretty damn good. Once you master, you don't ever really need a heal, you know, maybe in certain situations or survival mode. So the Leion Strike, which is the stamina version, this morph now increases the passive healing done to 1,800 health. Whenever the heal activates, it reduces the cost of your next Leion Strike cast by 10%, stacking up to 10 times. The cost reduction lasts until consumed, your character dies, or you rezone. And the siphoning, the morph now increases the resource restored to 2,600 magicka and stamina. Whenever the heal activates, it also restores 200 magicka and stamina. So on spoiler, what did they mention about it? Okay, so they mentioned the Nightblade class has been long limited in its overall performance by how well the player can utilize light and heavy attacks between each ability, making it very difficult for many players and build types. I think we explained that, a lot of people were having trouble with because it is a massive of parts. In efforts to ease back on some of the high demand, we're moving forward to rework to their primary sustain 2 to be more usable by any build or player, rather than needing to constantly activate the ability to be eligible to heal when you properly weave. It now passively heals you anytime you do damage simply for having it slotted. The resource portion of the ability is now granted the base level of the skill rather than morph, and no longer grants exclusive resources but comes at a risky cost of health, which we hope the passive healing helps lessen the risk of engaging it. So this is a really win-win. Like I said again, yeah, the risk could cause a health, but to be honest, it was always a risk because even before this skill the way it is right now, I mean, there's been times where I can't heal. I'm out of resources and I just rely. I do a heavy attack or a light attack, and I rely for that little extra juice of siphoning attack, and it works for me. It's a risky factor either way, but I think this one's much more easier, much more hands-on for beginners, for intermediate, for advanced. So I think in all, it's a win-win in all aspects. And like anything, it's also a win-win because the more damage you deal, the better chance you have of survival. Perfect on the rotation. And so for many people, some people thought it was a nerf, some people thought it was a buff. I believe it's one of the winners of the patch. Um, is it the best winner of the patch? That is to be continued for the next video. I will